Welcome to the Spiritist Companion Podcast, your bilingual podcast about Spiritism. My name is Yuri Castro, and I'll be your companion on this journey where we study, reflect, and put Spiritist teachings into practice. If you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and follow our weekly episodes. In today's episode, we'll be talking about one of the pillars of Spiritism, reincarnation. But what is reincarnation exactly? How does it work? Is it a reflection of divine justice? Let's dive in. Spiritism, let's start with that, did not invent reincarnation. No, the idea of the soul, of an immortal soul going through multiple earthly existences for one purpose or another, has been shared by ancient Egyptians, Greeks, Hindus, Buddhists, Druids, Persians, Hebrews, and others. Researchers have even found that thousands of years ago, during the Paleolithic period, bodies were buried in fetal positions, which they interpret as symbolic preparation for a new life, for a new incarnation. In science, there are various serious researchers, and to name just a few here, Dr. Ian Stevenson, Jim Tucker, Helen Wambach, Satwan Parisha, Alexander Moreira, among others, who have documented thousands and thousands of reincarnation cases around the world. So it's not something that is tied to a specific religion or it's tied to a specific part of the world. The evidence they have found throughout the years goes beyond religious belief, and it stands on its own. Let us see a message by our benefactor Emmanuel through the hands of Chico Xavier, message number 11 in the book Thought and Life. The path we begin in a particular existence is a continuation of the paths we have traveled in those that came before. Faithful justice in its mercy grants us the return for the blessing of a fresh start. Our cradle in the world reflects our needs, and it is up to each one of us, upon reincarnating, to honor it with worthy work of restoration, improvement, or elevation. So Emmanuel is already talking about faithful justice, talking about the mercy of God, and talking about how our reincarnation is this new beginning, this new chapter that we are the authors of, and that we write on the book of our lives. In the Spirit's book, question number 166, Allan Kardec asks, how can a soul that has not achieved perfection during the corporeal life complete its purification? The answer, by undergoing the trial of a new existence. In other words, reincarnation is the process by which the spirit returns to physical life as many times as needed for its improvement. So it's a process that has to do with trials and atonement or expiations, but it is always aimed toward improvement. The spirits there also explain that the purpose of reincarnation is atonement and the progressive betterment of humanity. Without this, where would justice be? So the purpose of reincarnation is this atonement, which in a way is going to lead to the progress of the individual spirit and humanity as a whole. So we learn in Spiritism that reincarnation is not a punishment from a God that is unfair and punitive and unjust, nor is it a limitation as well. It is a merciful opportunity to begin again, to correct mistakes, to develop virtues, and to grow towards spiritual fullness. Some may ask, though, why do we reincarnate then? What's the purpose of that? Well, if we only had one single life, how could we explain the dramatic differences in people's lives? Why is one person born healthy and another one born with an illness? Why is one person born in a place where peace reigns, where another one is born in a place that's war-torn? Why does one have so much of everything, so much wealth, and another person is born in deep poverty? Would God be arbitrary or unjust? Would God be playing favorites? Certainly not. Reincarnation shows us that each existence is a stage, a chapter of the same soul's story. What we live today, my dear friends, is the result of yesterday, but it's also the preparation for tomorrow. So each life that we have, and we are assuming we have had multiple lives in this journey of the soul, is the writing of a new chapter in the same book, the book of the soul. It is important also to talk about free will. So it's important to talk about how Spiritism does not preach determinism. We are responsible for our actions. Every choice creates consequences. And some of these consequences that we are living right now are because of choices that we have made in a previous life. We are the authors of our own destinies. We are the authors of the book that we talked about. And that's why we might reincarnate under a difficult circumstance, for instance, not as a punishment, like we said, but as an experience needed for readjustment or spiritual growth. However, we always have the power to change our trajectory, irrespective of the circumstance, through moral effort and will. We are not condemned, my dear friends. We are evolving. We're given the opportunity to do just that. And this journey is just, even if it doesn't seem that way, because each step is the fruit of our own spiritual construction. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, called Blessed Are the Afflicted, Kardec writes that reincarnation is the only thing that can explain the past and the future and provide a basis for the justice of God. Without it, meaning without this idea of reincarnation, without this idea of the same soul undergoing different trials and atonements in different bodies, suffering would seem like random punishment. Just bad luck. But with the notion of reincarnation, suffering gains a different meaning. It actually gains meaning as a trial or an atonement chosen by the Spirit to grow and to evolve. Many spirits, when evoked by Kardec in his book Heaven and Hell, explained that they themselves, for instance, requested difficult trials, hoping for faster progress. And this teaches us to look at life's challenges through a spiritual lens, no more a material lens. Reincarnation can also help explain emotional bonds, whatever they may be. So I ask you this, have you ever felt like you've known someone forever, even if you just met? Or had very complicated family relationships that seemed unexplainable? Well, reincarnation explains that too. In the Spirit's book, questions 203 to 205, we learn that family ties are often formed by spirits who have lived together before. Some return together to strengthen bonds of love. Others return to settle past debts, exercising forgiveness. So apparently learning these new virtues through forgiveness, through patience, through humility, by reincarnating with the same people that they have once reincarnated with, that they had once lived with. And we have already talked about this in our podcast number 4, Honor Your Parents, so I invite you to check that out as well. We have also learned that the Gospel says there is no such thing as chance in the bonds of life. The veil of forgetfulness is a divine mercy. And it is. We may say, oh, I don't remember having lived with these people, or I don't remember the mistakes that I've made in a past life. How can I correct them? Well, imagine if we remembered every past life offense. Forgiveness would be much harder. Self-forgiveness too, because the guilt could crush us, and I would say would crush us. So thanks to this loving mechanism that comes from the loving law, we can return to repair broken ties without the burden of remembering exactly how they were broken. But how does reincarnation planning actually work? And this is a question that many people have, and it's important that we address. A spirit does not reincarnate by chance. We already established that. So before reincarnating in the spiritual world, a plan is made with the help of higher spirits, with the help of spirits that are specialized in this sort of work. There are these entire departments dedicated to this specific process of reincarnation. Beautifully described, I may add, in the works of the Spirit André Luiz through the hands of Chico Xavier. But just to mention a few couple of things, this reincarnation plan includes the body we're going to inhabit, the family we'll be born into, the main trials we're going to face, the atonements we must undergo, and even the talents that we bring as tools for growth. But let's focus on one thing here, my friends. This plan is flexible. Free will remains active. We can make new choices, we can improve our path, or we can delay it, all depending on how we live. We may make all these plans in the spiritual world, and then we come here, we may fail to fulfill those plans. We may deviate from the path, and then we're going to have to eventually get to them. But how can we live better with this understanding of reincarnation? How can we apply this in our daily lives? Well, knowing that we are immortal spirits in a reincarnated experience invites us to value the present as a precious opportunity. Work on our inner reform, letting go of pride and selfishness and all of the other burdens, all the other moral burdens that we carry. Accept our trials with courage and faith, knowing that they also have a very specific and just purpose, and acting with more compassion. So recognizing that everyone is at a different point in their spiritual journey, one that I always say is very individual, very unique. So we are invited to act with more compassion, to have more of a loving look toward people and their challenges. Reincarnation, therefore, isn't just a philosophical idea discussed throughout the history of humankind in different cultures and different religions. Reincarnation, or the notion of it, it's this daily call to transformation. So, my dear friends, to reincarnate is above all an act of divine love, and this is a message that I want you to have. It is this constant chance to learn, to grow, to evolve. And as we learn with Emmanuel, life is a school, earth is our classroom, the body is a blessing, and each existence a new lesson, each existence a new chance to do better than what we did in a previous life. So may we make the most of this life, this sacred, this unique opportunity to be better than we were yesterday, with gratitude and hope. Thank you so much, my dear friends, for being here with me for another episode of the Spiritist Companion Podcast. Today we talked about reincarnation, how Spiritism did not invent the idea of reincarnation, and how we can apply the knowledge of this new chapter that we're blessed with to improve not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. And how reincarnation can help explain so many things that before seemed unexplainable, or if we look at those things with a material eye, we're not going to be able to understand them. And as usual, I hope this was helpful, even if just a little. So if this message touched your heart, consider sharing it with someone who may also be seeking the same thing. Until we meet again next Monday, be at peace, honor this opportunity that you have, and walk with faith. With fraternal love, your Spiritist companion.